to know what they were trying to distract us from in the last couple days? Well, it's this right here. The House of Representatives just passed a bill punishing, quote, politically motivated boycotts of Israel. Quote, in a first step towards a federal law punishing criticism of Israel, the House of Representatives on Wednesday, that was 9/11, mind you, passed a massive defense budget that would bar companies engaged in politically motivated boycotts of the country from Pentagon contracts. The bill would effectively ban contractors boycotting Israel from tapping most federal contract dollars, since more than half of the $755 billion in the U.S. government spent on contracts last year flowed through the Defense Department. All right, so in more plain English, the U.S. Congress is trying to make it so that in order for American weapons manufacturers to supply weapons to the U.S. military, they must also supply weapons to Israel by law. What the is that all about?
So here's some crazy news that you may have missed. The House passed a controversial amendment that punishes businesses if they boycott Israel. It was added to the defense budget by a Republican, Lauren Boebert, and it may mean that a company or nonprofit engaging in what she calls a politically motivated boycott will be barred from most Pentagon contracts. Now, guys, this is crazy because the move directly targets the BDS movement, which stands for boycott, divestment, and sanctions. Supporters of the amendment argue that American taxpayer dollars should never go to companies that protest Israel. But critics, including the ACLU, warn that this is an attack on free speech. They point out that boycotts have been recognized by courts as a form of political expression, protected under the First Amendment. Legal challenges are almost certain. Federal courts have struck down similar state laws in Kansas, Texas, Arkansas, saying the government can't force people or companies to give up their political beliefs or to do business. The Senate's version of the defense bill does not include this language, so this will be a major flashpoint when both chambers try to agree on a final bill.
Are U.S. companies forced to support and back Israel? Please pay attention to the end of the video, because that is the most vital information to understand why. So remember, the U.S. government hasn't passed any new legislations on term limits or ensuring that Americans will get health care and assistance, but they did manage to pass a bill on September 11th. It's amazing how productive our U.S. government can be for Israel. The U.S. House of Representatives on Wednesday passed the annual defense policy bill, getting nearly $900 billion in military spending for Israel, 231 to 196 vote, largely along party lines, and underscores Washington's continued military and political support for the Jewish state as it wages war against Iran's network of terrorist proxies in the Middle East.
It's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region.
What's crazy to me is that the U.S. has so many export laws on arms, meaning all of your military equipment, and it's controlled by the AECA, and I looked it up. That's the Arms Export Control Act. We're the ones that are the biggest perpetrators of selling arms. Even my stepdad, when I was growing up, used to work for a company that worked with submarines, and of course he couldn't tell us what he did there with top secret work. I learned a lot about how the government worked through him, because he does get government contracts. If you're young and you want to make money, honey, start a company that's making high-tech equipment, go into a field where you're working with engineers, doing that sort of stuff, because this country loves weapons, and we're the biggest distributors. We love to sell that stuff. There's this rumor going around saying that the government is now enforcing that these military companies, big companies, I could go into, you know the list, there's a lot, is forcing them to work with Israel, meaning they cannot boycott Israel. And we know that the U.S. government gives loads of military help to not only Israel, to Ukraine, and to many other countries. This is all part of international war games, I call it, and rightfully so. Donald Trump naming it Department of War. We're the biggest proponents of funding war, in my opinion. The U.S. gives Israel money. It's under this thing called the Memoranda of Understanding. This was like a 10-year deal that America made with Israel that went from 2016. What these are negotiated agreements. There's nothing here that is mandatory laws for private manufacturers. Like, we don't want you to boycott Israel. We want you, like, I think of like all the states where there's right-wing conservatism going on. You know, I think of all the states where there's people that are senators that are huge fans of Israel, probably saying, if you want to get that government contract, then you need to pledge to us that you are not anti-Israel. You know, you're going to be willing to sell your product to Israel, and then we will grant you this government contract. So it's not coming from a federal mandate, but more likely a state level, which makes a lot more sense, because this would be, in my opinion, unethical for the United States government that is funded by you and I, American taxpayer, to be enforcing us to support a foreign country. Oh, and I did look up to clarify what that 10-year memorandum of understanding signed in 2016 committed to. It committed to a $38 billion in military aid to Israel. Money is specifically for U.S. defense equipment and services. So Israel gets U.S. weapons, but that's because of government-to-government agreements, not because of private companies or who are legally bound to sell to Israel. So that's straight our government saying, we want to give you this huge amount of money in military aid. So this is already items or services, personnel, whatever the United States is offering to help assist Israel. That's already money set aside. This is, and we could talk about the birthday cake incident when the LGBTQIA stuff was going on, and that woman wouldn't make the cake, homosexual couple. And that was a story that got a lot of play because people are saying, wait, hold up, we're a private company. We have a right to sell to anybody we want to, and if we decide we don't want to sell to this person or that person or this country, we should have a say-so. Remember, our U.S. government can skirt all of that by saying we want to support money to our allies, and they vote on it. This is not just the president, or it's a culmination of our U.S. government saying, yeah, we are going to give this aid to this country. And it's why we've seen loads of money go to Ukraine over the years for this war against Russia, because they can vest it and they can say, this is for our protection. This is for our sovereignty, to make sure we as a country are safe. We are investing this money to help our allies. I mean, try to remember, America will always invest where they feel they have the most to gain. People want to see Israel fail, but as long as you have all those senators and our government vested in Israel, vested in Netanyahu, we're going to see a lot more money going to that government.
I stand with Israel.
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 Israel is our friend, and Israel is our most important ally in the Middle East. I will always stand with Israel.
I am a strong supporter of Israel.
We stand with Israel.
We should all stand up for Israel.